Well, welcome to this installment of the Quake home group. And for those of you that have been able to participate so far, I hope you found this to be a very enjoyable experience. I know for myself and my family, we've really enjoyed reading through the scriptures and reading through the lessons, and especially the daily devotions. They've really been encouraging for us. Last week, we looked at how our use of time and money exposes our heart. And as that happens, we begin to get a better picture of what generosity is being looked at through this study. And so I hope that through this time that you've been able to see your own heart and be able to understand your own perspective on the decisions you make in your life and how those have an impact in your ministry for God. And so this week we're going to be looking at interval, and we're going to be looking at the time element of our lives. And when you think about time, you think about a quality that is something that is limited. We only have so many days on this earth. And time is not a respecter of position or authority or how much money a person has. We all have a very limited amount of time. And how we use that time is very important to God. So when we look at this lesson, we have several questions that refer back to a table that we did back on Monday in our devotion. And in this table, we wrote down how many hours we spend doing various activities. And this analysis for different people can produce some very different results. Now, when I did this, I came up with some numbers that I was actually kind of surprised at. But as I thought about it, it made sense. And so what I've done is I've put a chart together, and on this chart you can see that for me, I'm spending about 19% of my time in personal activities, whether it's personal care, personal devotions, those kinds of things, driving to and from work. And then I'm also spending about 34% of my time related to family, church, and ministry. So as I do activities consistent with being an elder, or as I participate in church activities or family activities, family devotions and things like that. This is the amount of time I do there. And then I found that I spend about 47% of my time related to work. Now, what was surprising to me about this is that this is a large number. It's bigger than I thought it would be. But as I've thought about it, during my waking hours, I do spend close to 50% of my time at work. And I think for those of you that also work, you'll find something similar. 45 to 55% of your time is spent there. And because of the significance of this, what I did is I took this chart and used it as a tool and did a study about work. And what I found is that work is important to God. And work is not just something that I do apart from ministry. It's not something that keeps me from doing the things that I enjoy. I know that's an attitude that many people have about work. And so as I look at this, I can see that much of my time is spent at work. And from a priority perspective, maybe that's good, maybe that's not. But the fact is that most of my time is going to be spent there. And so, as I thought about work, what I asked myself was, what is it that God would have me do with the time that I'm spending at work? And as I looked in the scriptures about work, I discovered that in Genesis, we see that Adam is called to work. In fact, he's put to work in the garden. And work was important for Adam even then, just as it's important for us today. And also I looked in Ecclesiastes and saw where work is looked at as being a gift from God, and how God provides that as a blessing in our lives for something to do. Also, my attitude about work is something that I've needed to shape. And as I've looked through God's Word, I've really begun to see a different way that I can look at the time that I spend there. And one of the ways is found in Colossians, where it talks about work as being an act of worship. And as I think about worship, I think about praising God with something that I am doing. Not just in song or some other way, but in doing the things that I do at work, performing the tasks that I'm given. I can worship God by doing that. Another verse is found in 1 Corinthians, and it looks at how through our work we glorify God. We give Him the glory for what He is able to do through us. And so those are scriptures that really helped me reshape my attitude about work and my understanding about what it means to spend 50% of my time there. And so as I've learned more about how God views work, I've been able to think about how I spend the almost 50% of my time each week. And I've put together several bullet points that look at what I do. One item is encouraging. Can I be encouraging to people at work? Can I take the people that are around me and encourage them, not just in what they're doing, but in how they're living and their attitude about life? Another area is blessing through the service that I do. As I perform the tasks that I do each day, am I a blessing to my boss and to my coworkers? Am I able to help them in times of need? Am I able to have an impact on their lives and open their eyes in terms of who I am and what God is doing in my life? Another one is opening doors for outreach. This is something that I've really been keen to at work because I lead a work Bible study, and that provides me an opportunity to impact people's lives. One thing that I've understood is that in order to have an impact with people at work, I need to earn their respect. When I am able to earn their respect, that gives me a greater leeway in sharing my faith and in being open about who I am and what I believe. And so those are opportunities that I can use. Another area is learning and growth. And there are many ways that God can do this for us at work. In fact, I have a particular personal example of how God has used work in my life to change who I am. One of the experiences that I had this last year is I had a very difficult circumstance with my manager. And through that relationship, my initial response to it was to have a lot of stress and to have anxiety and to be worried, and it just made for work to be very difficult for me. In fact, when I came home from work, I wasn't always the nicest person to my family. And I wasn't always the nicest person to my coworkers. And so through that situation, I began to think, well, Lord, why is this happening to me? Why are the circumstances the way they are? Why do I feel the way I do? I said, Lord, teach me. And in the process of praying in that way, God revealed some things to me that took me by surprise. What he helped me understand was that the way that I was being treated by my boss in particular at that time was a way that I was actually treating my family. And because of that experience, I understood that I needed to change some things at home. I needed to change how I related to my family. I needed to be encouraging, and I needed to be gentle and to be kind and merciful, especially with my children. And when I realized that, I began to change things at home, and I can say for the last 6 months, things have been very different. It's been a wonderful place to be for me. And at the same time, God changed my circumstances at work. That manager happened to take a job outside, and I now have a new manager in place. And God changed those circumstances, but I believe the reason that I had those happen in the first place was not for something else, but so that God could teach me, and so that I could learn from that experience. So work, where I spend 50% of my time, is a place that not only I can minister to others, but I can be ministered to, and I can be shown truth from God. So all of these are ways that we can use this tool. And for you, maybe at school, or for you, maybe you're at home, you're a homemaker, and you spend a lot more time with your kids. What are things that you can do? What are ways that you can take the greatest time that you spend each week and make that a blessing to the people around you? And so now I'm going to cut you loose to work through your study for this evening. You'll be looking at a passage in Luke, and in this passage you'll be looking at Mary and Martha and ways that they chose to spend their time, perhaps in good ways or better ways. And maybe you'll get a sense of the importance of priorities and how we look at the different activities that we may have put on our chart on page 33 in our books. And so enjoy your time together and enjoy your discussion, and I wish you the best.